Now, last week Friday, we saw the S&P 500 finishing the day down 0.2%, whereas we saw the Nasdaq down 0.5%. The Dow was the only one which finished Friday up 0.3%. Now, this came after last week. Of course, we saw the US giving us their inflation figures, which came out a bit worse than what analysts expected, because you will know by now that obviously analysts were expecting inflation to come at 6.2%, which obviously we saw it coming at 6.4%. This just means that the US is not yet out of the spider web, or it's not yet out of high inflations, because as we saw last week, they came out, or it came out worse than what analysts expected. Now, the good thing is that, ladies and gents, though we saw the S&P 500 finishing the week on a red, I must say that there are stocks which obviously did very well last week after they reported their earnings. I mean, those of you that are following me on social media, you already know some of the stocks which I had in my portfolio which did really good. I mean, stocks like Airbnb, Twilio, Crocs. These are the stocks, or some of the stocks which did really well after their earnings, or after they reported their earnings in terms of the share price. So what happened, or those of you that have been following me, you'll know that obviously what I'm doing, especially now in the first quarter, I'm selling most of my stocks that obviously turn green after the earnings, and this is due to the fact that I still believe that, yeah, like I said, the market might still crash towards the 52-week lows we saw obviously last year. This is due to high inflation. This is something that obviously I personally believe that it is going to result in the Federal Reserve increasing interest rate aggressively in the, of course, coming few weeks, which is something that obviously I personally believe that that is going to crash the markets, that is going to make the markets head towards its 52-week low. So this is it, or it is for this reason that I'm selling, or I'm having to find myself selling my stocks, or the stocks that turn green which I owned after earnings. I mean, last week I was so excited. I mean, companies like Twilio, Airbnb generated me some good returns, because I was looking for a company like Airbnb last week. When I sold this company, I was up, or I had generated good returns of over $400, which is something that is incredible. Same with Twilio, I had generated over $200. Over Crocs also I generated some good returns, which is why I ended up selling my entire holdings on the stocks that really did very well after they reported their earnings. Now this week I also do have, or I still have, once again, stocks which are expected to report their quarterly earnings, which, boy, I must say I'm excited, because if I get to see another recovery from the stocks which I own, which are expected to report their earnings this week, then I'm going to continue doing the same, and that is selling those stocks and probably wait maybe until the US economy becomes better when it comes to inflation and rate hikes, because as it stands, ladies and gents, things are not looking good. Inflation is still high, and the Federal Reserve is still going to come and increase interest rates, probably aggressively so. So whenever I see some of my stocks turning into green, especially after the earnings, what I'm doing is I'm either selling my entire holdings or just trimming those stocks, because I know that I might get some good opportunity as the year unfolds. This is, of course, due to what I've told you, that inflation is still high. Federal Reserve might continue increasing interest rates, trying to curb this inflation, because you will know by now that the Federal Reserve in the US is targeting an inflation of 2%, which obviously, looking at the fact that they're still at 6.4%, must just show you that obviously they are still very high from, or they are still very far from that, of course, 2% which they are targeting. Now, before we forget the actual, so you already know that this video is just an entertainment video and not a professional financial advice video. Now, I really appreciate if you can just hit the likes button if you are enjoying the content that I'm giving you about what transpired in the markets last week, and also what was happening sort of like in my portfolio, or what is it that I was doing last week from some of the stocks that really did well for me, which I owned before actually they reported maybe their earnings. Otherwise, I'll really appreciate if you can just hit the likes button if you are enjoying the content that I'm giving you, as it also helps with YouTube's algorithm. So yes, last week I found myself, of course, selling some of my stocks, or selling completely some of the stocks which I owned due to the earnings, or due to the good earnings which those stocks reported. So I was really excited, because last week ended me sitting with around plus 12,000 of just returns which I generated from the stocks which I owned. So I was very excited, because 12,000 in just probably 1 week after companies report their earnings, it was a good I guess it was some good money, which is why now it led me into me obviously selling those stocks. Now this week, as I said, I am expecting or there are still some of the stocks which I own, which I believe that should it happen that obviously they do really well in their earnings or on their earnings, I'm definitely going to do the same, and that is of course sell those stocks, and in anticipation of maybe getting a much better opportunity, or buying opportunity in the near future. So I know you can't of course time the markets, predict the markets, but almost all the big institutions are now pointing at the fact that the S&P 500 might revisit its 52-week low, and that is of course due to inflation and interest rate hikes which we might see coming from the Federal Reserve in the next coming few weeks. Now I'm hoping that I get, or then when we see the S&P 500 revisiting the 52-week lows, I'm definitely going to obviously start considering reloading the boat, or adding these stocks into my portfolio, because I mean these are stocks which maybe just because of the current economic conditions they are not doing that well, maybe in terms of the share price, but these are companies which are doing really good. Fundamentally they are stronger, or when we check their revenues, they are continuing to do well, which is why even the share price after they report their earnings, it is recovering. So I'm hoping for the best yet again this week, and I believe that the stocks which I own, which are set to report their Q1 earnings, are definitely going to also maybe report positive earnings, which will result in the share price to recover. So I'm hoping for the best. Otherwise, I just thought I'd just give you this quick updates as to what transpired last week, and obviously what is it that I did with the gains which I saw in some of the stocks which I owned after they report their earnings. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, comment and subscribe. And once you subscribe, don't forget to hit or click that notification bell so that at least you get notified by YouTube every time I drop a new content. Otherwise, that's all from me, and I wish you nothing but the best in your stock market investing journey, and God bless you all.